call buttons, and then that way we have all your comments. So hello everyone again, I'm Giovanni Bedoya, and currently furloughed as we speak, but it's all good. I've been learning how to handle my stress during this time of crisis, of course, through some of the friends that I have, especially one that's on with us today, Mr. Mike Iorio from the Dale Carnegie training. So I'm very excited to introduce him and to bring this forward and share with everyone all the awesome techniques and things you will learn about today. So to start off, I wanted to just share a little bit of my story and talk about what it is that resilience is. So if you look up the word resilience, you're going to see that it's the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, right? So that's what resilience is all about. And let me just give you a quick story. So picture this. You're a completely dark room. You don't know what's happening. You hear a bunch of noise. You hear rattling. You hear screaming. You're not quite sure what's going on. You're not fully coherent. And then you wake up and you see a bright light right above your face and about 15 people surrounding you. And one of them says, Giovanni, stay calm. You died on us. We had to revive you. Everything will be okay. That's 2 months ago, what happened to me on after my soccer game. I played a great game, felt weird, scored a goal though.
Nice.
Got to my car, felt really weird, called my wife. She said, pull over, let me pick you up. While I was waiting for her, felt horrible, ended up in the hospital room with chest pain, numbness in the arms. And at the hospital is where I had a heart attack. I suffered a massive heart attack. I had a 90% clogged artery.
Wow.
And it ruptured, which caused my heart attack. Lucky for me and for my family, I survived it. I was obviously admitted to the hospital. They inserted a stent. But yeah, I died for 2 minutes, almost 2 minutes, the doctor said. He then, a week later, after we spoke on the phone, he told me that I'm a walking miracle. And that was the weekend when this COVID-19 shut down our entire life. Then a week later, I get the news, hey, a friend of yours passed away. He died of a respiratory infection. A very good friend, mentor. It was very tough. You couldn't even, you don't understand how hard it is to not be able to say goodbye properly to someone. And then a week later, one of my closest childhood father figures got the COVID virus, was in the hospital. He actually went to the hospital for something else and caught it at the hospital. Then he ended up catching the virus, fighting it, was intubated. While he was intubated, another family member caught the virus as well, fighting it, intubated. Now I have two family members fighting it. One passes away. My second family member passed away. By this point, my aunt's husband caught the virus as well. Now he's in the hospital fighting for his life. The day I went to New Jersey with my wife to do a drive-up burial, and that was only by pulling special strings with the city government to be able to allow this. That night, as we got home from Jersey, my uncle passed away. My aunt has COVID, has been fighting it. She's good now. I have another uncle in Georgia fighting COVID. And that's just what's happening to me. And one of the basic principles of Dale Carnegie training is to sometimes just look at the positive, look at the bright side. Another principle, let things go. And that's really how I'm living. So that's just a small example of resilience. Oh, and by the way, the week after I had my heart attack, or 2 weeks after I had my heart attack, I was furloughed as well. So
Mm.
I currently don't have a job. My side business, which is a DJ company, I have no gigs. Obviously, they've all been canceled. I've had 4 deaths in my circle, a lot of close calls, um, and the stress that it brings, even being at home for 2 months. I'm a part-time teacher now, and that's the toughest job I've had for a while. So, anyways, the point being, it's all about being resilient. It's all about being able to manage the stress. And people like Mike, I mean, he's checked in on me since day one. So I'm very appreciative for people like Mike who, you surround yourself with those that are positive for you, and that's it. That's what it's all about. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce to you Mr. Mike Iorio from the Dale Carnegie Training. And what we'll do is, if you decide you want to say something towards the end, we're going to use the call buttons, and then we'll bring the entire meeting together. And then, Mike, I could stop sharing the screen, and
Yep.
then we could see the call buttons.
Yep.
So, Mike, it's all yours. Thank you all
Uh,
again for joining.
Absolutely. Giovanni, thank you for sharing the story, and thank you for allowing me to be here. And for the people here, thank you. We're actually, if you look at the next slide, we're going to create some interaction with us. If everybody's been on the Zoom, if you know where the chat box is at the bottom of the screen, in the chat box, let's hear from everybody here. Think about where you are. Giovanni just told his story. What's one thing that's causing stress for you right now? What is one thing that's causing stress for you right now? So just hit the chat box, type something in. Someone's working 12-hour days. Regina, thank you. Finances, right? Not being able to work. Yeah. The client's needs, and they might be different needs, or they need more depending on what industry you are. Yep. Being at home. With that. And the stress that I would put down is in the Dale Carnegie world, moving our training from classroom-based, face-to-face to online. And we've been on this journey over the last couple of weeks, and I'll tell more about that as we go. And it was very stressful in the beginning. It's not stressful now. Because we're getting a lot of great traction as it. So as we can see by all the participants, there is a lot of stress going on right now. And so our topic and our purpose for today is twofold. One is to have some fun and make it interactive just like we did. So be ready to share some insight as we land on a couple pages here. And the second one is at the end of the session, look for one or two things that you could take ownership of that, hey, this was worth my time today, and I'm going to focus on this to be more resilient, as Giovanni talked about, and or reduce my stress as we go through. So if you have a paper and a pen handy, recommend having that by your side. So as we go through a couple talking points, you could jot a note down to say, hey, this is what I want to commit to as we go through the process. So job well done with the chat room. We'll come back to that in a little bit as we go through it. So as we look at the next slide, it's setting the foundation for the world that we live in today, and there's a lot of things going on today that's causing change, as we all know. But the most important thing is how are we dealing with it? How are we putting up with this? With that, there is a lot of lack of clarity for some businesses. We saw people working 12 hours, so the volume and speed of getting things done. And for people in other businesses, they have no work. They're laid off or they're on furlough, and they're trying to fill the void. So it's different for different people. But the same is, we're all human beings, and how do we deal with that? And so as we look at the next slide, it's understanding ourselves and who we are, and how do we handle stress? How do we deal with stress? And everybody's a little bit different here. So if you think about people that are chronic, that they have it's initial distress and it does not decrease. So they stay at that high level for where they are. And if you look at what we call the delayed stress, it might start low and then reality kicks in and then it creeps up and it goes higher and we get to that more of that chronic stuff. Recovery might mean we start high, start trying to understand it, get some traction, and then we're able to reduce it and bring it down more towards resilient. And for some of us, based on our wiring and who we are, we're able to be resilient. It doesn't matter what comes our way. We're able to step up and step in to be able to deal with it as we go through it with that. So just take a moment to think where are you? When something happens, something out of your control, when you're feeling that pressure, like Bonnie talked about in his story, and obviously a lot of people say, well, it does depend on the circumstance with that, and so how do you really step in to who you want to be, and more importantly, how do we recover and get to that resilient? And we're going to talk about that as we go through the process. So, Giovanni, you gave a great definition of resilience, and let's look at the next slide because we have it actually on the slide here. And if you take a moment to read through this, and then I'm going to ask you to come off mute if you don't mind, and just share one word that speaks to you here as you read through it. So as you see a word that speaks to you, just take yourself off mute. Go back. Yep. And just come off mute and just share the word with the group here. So who'd like to go first?
And your mute button, the button is on the top right, blue corner there. And you can unmute yourself if you'd like.
It might be on the bottom too for different people with different screens. It's the thing that looks like a little microphone. So who would like to go first? What's a word that speaks to you?
Do positive.
All right. Why, Regina? What about positivity?
If we, I've had my own coping mechanisms, and I let myself have a day where I just kind of blow out all the down, and then I have to bounce back and pull myself up, and that's how I've programmed myself to pull out of the quagmire, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. So it doesn't matter what happens to us, what's our state of mind, and through experience, how do we stay positive with it as we go through it? Beautiful. Let's get one more. Who'd like to share? This is the do not be shy part.
I guess I would say confidence.
Why is that important?
Because sometimes you go through the same experience multiple times, so you figure if you were able to survive the first time around, you'll be able to do it again. It's that confidence that after a while, you just figure, well, if I did it once, I can do it again.
Yes, and it's like anything. Once you get into it and you start getting some experience and some knowledge, it just builds that confidence. And also the same with life experience as you go through it. And as I read through this, you talk about coping and recovering. We're going to have to cope with things because there's a lot of things outside of our control. And so how do we process it? And once we process it, how do we get to recovery to be our best? And that's something that we could influence and control as we go through it, because life is full of curveballs. It's how we step up and knock those curveballs out of the ballpark as we go through the process. So resilience is very important to all of us, and we all, as Giovanni opened up with his story, and if we look at the next slide, I work for an organization called Dale Carnegie, and that's a picture of him. He started the programs back in 1912. He was like the godfather of self-help, and here we are over 100 years later. And we've been through the recessions, we've been through many different things, and we'll be able to get through this as everybody else. But it's about the story of resilience. So Giovanni shared his story already, where he had to be resilient with losing people, his heart attack, his being furloughed. And Giovanni, what would be a word that you're demonstrating right now to be resilient? If you had to pick one word, what would it be?
Tough.
What's that?
Tough.
Tough. You got to be tough-minded, right? Right. A lot of blows, right? But you got to be tough with it as we go through it. I'm going to share a story, and as I'm sharing a story too, I want everybody else to think about a personal story where you had to demonstrate resilience. And as you think about your story, we'll use a chat box again. And in the chat box, just write the word that what's one word that you would share based on your story. So Giovanni's word was tough. So my story is when I was, we had my son, and my wife went through a tough labor. And after he was born, she's like, never again. I'm not going to have another. I can't go through that. And about 4 or 5 years go by, and a couple other friends were having babies, and she got the itch again, and she didn't want to go through pregnancy. And I'm like, what about adoption? And she's like, all right. So we started doing our research, and I played some basketball down in South America. I love the culture down there, and we started doing some research, and we came upon an agency that really matched our values, and we wound up adopting, having an opportunity to adopt my daughter from Guatemala. And So we got the match. When she was 4 months old, we were able to fly down to Guatemala to finish up the process and the paperwork. We get down there, we're in this big hotel, and there's a couple other families that they're in the adoption process there. And I run into this lady that has a baby that she wants to adopt, but the paperwork got screwed up. And she's been there for over 5 weeks. Typically, you're there for 4 days. And she was afraid to go home because she already made a connection with her baby, and her mom comes down for a week, her dad comes down for a week, and I just felt so bad for her. And then as we were going through the process, going over to the embassy to get the paperwork, we ran into some hiccups with our paperwork. And that feeling of what she was going through started, kicking in a little bit. And I'm like, that can't happen. And so over the next 2 days, I got up early, called my agency. I was doing everything to do, in my control to make sure it wouldn't happen. And through 2 days of hard work, we were able to finalize all the paperwork. We were able to pick up my daughter, Nina, and be able to move forward with that. And the word that I would land on that I had to step in with was determination. I was so determined, and it was well worth it. So if you look at the next slide, I put a couple pictures of there, and that's why I was so determined. There she is with a good sense of humor with the shark mask, and she's 14 years old now. TikTok is her favorite thing. So I'm not sure if you guys know what TikTok is. I'll say this out loud. I am a proud dad. I got about 70 TikToks under my belt. So I am a TikTok dad. I got all the moves down. And there's a picture of her, my mom, and my son, Sam, who's in college now with that. So in the chat box, thinking about your personal stories, what would be a word that you would land on? Jamani talked about being tough. I had to show determination. What's something that you had to show in order to be resilient? So just chat a word in the chat box. Perseverance. Thank you. Yep. Hope and faith. Right? Praying is a good thing. Yep. Have faith. Beautiful. Patience. Unwavering. Beautiful. And so as we think about, and thank you, Rafi, with flexibility. So as we think about our stories, the good news is we have some of the things to help us become resilient because we've been there. And Rafi, I think you said it best. We learn from experiences, and we have experiences. We may not go well the first time, but we learn from it, and we get better, and we get more confident, and we're able to deal with it as we go through it. So as you look at the next slide, a question that's asking that they ask is resilience something that you inherit, that you have, or is it something that you can learn, or is it a result of a process? And my opinion, as I've been doing this for 28 years, obviously there's some people that just have that natural ability. It doesn't matter what happens, they have that resilience, and they just keep going through, and things like that. And for most of us, can we learn it? And going back to what we said earlier, through life experiences, absolutely. And we could also learn it through processes, like through having a good mentor, having people that will coach us and give us some good insights so we learn how to bring that out. But the good news is we do have it in us. We just have to learn how to use it, especially in today's time as we go through the process. And so there's a couple things that we could focus on as we look at that, and that's going to be on the next slide, which is looking at 3 key areas. We're going to focus on just 2 for today. Is one, looking at ourselves, and also other people, which is under teams with that. Now, I live in the Dale Carnegie world, and as I work and I coach people, one of the things that we focus on in helping people, when we set the foundation, I'll share it today, is the question is this: who's the only person we could truly change? Right? Who's the person that we could truly change, right? And it's ourselves. And I see a couple people pointing to themselves. Now, here's a follow-up question. But we spend most of our time trying to change who? Everybody else, right? Don't we have a nice wish list for other people? This person be this person be that. And so a lot of times we forget about ourselves. So the thing about being resilient and managing stress, it's all about you. And as you take time to focus on you, and build you, right? It doesn't matter what comes away. We'll be able to step in and step through it as we go through it. So if you do have a piece of paper handy or in your head, but it's great if you can write it down, what are some of the qualities and characteristics that you like about who you are? So what are some of the qualities and characteristics that you like about who you are that could help you get through challenging times? So just on a piece of paper, what are some things that you would write down about yourself? So if I was writing, as I'm writing down here, I would talk about being more persistent, right? I'm a very persistent person. Another thing about myself is patience. I'm a patient person, so I know not to react, but to learn how to respond to pressure situations as we go through it with that. So what are some qualities that you have about who you are that you like about yourself that could really have a positive impact as you go through it? So we'll just, whoops, there you go. Pressed the wrong button there. Oh. Yeah, I just went to Jabani. Oh, yeah, there we go. All right, I'm back. All right, so what's in the chat box? What's one quality that you like about who you are? Let's go back to the chat box and give yourself. You're allowed to toot your horn here. What's a quality that you like about who you are that can help you get through that? All right, staying calm, beautiful, positive, beautiful. Yeah, resilient. So it's got to start with you. So the most important thing is we talk about positive pep talks, right? Things that you like about who you are. When you're feeling down, taking time to write these things down, looking for the good in yourself, looking for the good in others. And if we don't become balanced, it's hard to be able to do the things that we have to do with us. And as you're coaching other people, it's another way of helping others to really get balanced for who they are, is just tell them right now, what do you like about yourself? What do you like about who you are? What qualities, what characteristics do you have that helps you get through these tough times? And writing them and creating that visual really has a positive impact for what we're doing there. And now we see this ball on the left-hand side right there. And we use this ball about bouncing. I played a lot of basketball. I know, Giovanni, you're probably getting back into it hopefully soon. And you think about a ball, and you think about the coronavirus and where we are and what's going on in this global situation that we're in. The question for all of us is, how high do we want to bounce back? Right? How high do you want to bounce back? Now we have a choice. We could make this a small bounce and not much change in ourselves. We can have a medium bounce, or we could go for a big bounce here. And I'm all about the big bounce. And this is a great time for all of us to ask ourselves and to challenge ourselves, how high of a bounce do I want to have as we go through that? So we're going to come back to this ball in a moment. So the first thing we're looking at is looking at ourselves. Love who you are, appreciate who you are, and build off the strengths that you do have. And then if you look at the next slide, Dale Carnegie gives us some insights on what we can do, right? Staying positive for who we are and as we go through the process. And if you look at one more slide over, and we have some of the Dale Carnegie principles there, begin in a friendly way. So these are things that we can do to really create a better environment for who we are. Cooperate with the inevitable, put more enthusiasm into your work, fill your minds with peace, with thoughts of peace, courage, health, and hope. Number 5 really speaks to me, count our blessings. So as we go through that in the chat box, put a number down. What's a number that speaks to you, right, in helping you become more balanced for who you are? So out of these 6 things, which one's speaking to you? Beautiful. Regina, if you could come off mute and just tell us why you picked 2. You okay with that?
Okay, got it.
There you go. All right, perfect.
You know, they're like everyone else on here, there have been a confluence of events that have taken place in addition to the stay home order, and sometimes it feels insurmountable. And in my role, I'm reaching out to people, talking to them about basically their life. And people are angry,
Mm,
people are scared. And I almost feel that at the end of the day, I need to have like a debriefing, and I don't have that ability
mm,
to have someone to debrief with, because I mean, you're literally in critical situations with everybody every day. I've had people saying that they've been laid off, that
yep.
maybe they're in charge, they're furloughing friends, and then they have family members that, like Giovanni, that they've lost, people that
Yeah.
are in healthcare scenarios that are bad. So there's
Perfect.
a lot, and I'm just really trying. I'm really super trying to do, a cooperative with the inevitable. I mean, anything goes at this point.
Yeah,
It
that's so
really
true.
does, and it does every day. But it
Yep.
just feels insurmountable right now with all the things that we're unaccustomed to.
Yep, it's magnified right now. Absolutely. And
Mhm.
thank you for sharing that. Brett, why don't you come off mute and share number 4 with us? Why is that important to you?
Well, I think like some of the others said that you're surrounded so often by such negativity, particularly right now, in news sources and constant conversation. I think it's important to take that time to fill list positives and kind of center yourself.
Yep. Yeah, I appreciate that. No, thank you so much. Right. And that's things that we could do to be more balanced for who we are as we go through it. So these principles are all common sense, but it's really about making them common practice for ourselves. Because if we can't ground ourselves, how can we ask others to ground them? And so it starts with the person that you see every day in the mirror, counting your blessings and really love who you are. And I use the word love, not like who you are, but love who you are. And because we can't change, I'm 6'9". I can't make myself 6'2", right? I am who I am, right? And that's the things that we got to focus on as we go through it. So it starts with us, and then as we look at the next slide, and we got to focus on what we call other people, the teams. We're in this together, as we hear on the news and we hear it from other people, and it's so true. Loneliness is higher than it's ever been right now, and how people feel, and so reaching out to others. So this is a great time. It doesn't matter where you are with your job, being super busy or being laid off. There is a great time for us to take a step back and reach out to other people. When we're working with our clients today about, how do we find sales? Just call your customers, not to push any sales, but to ask the question, how you doing? And just listen. It's a great chance to call your vendors and just check in with them. But also think about your coworkers, and think about when we were busy and life was normal. Think about people in other departments that you counted on that always helped you, but you never took the time to say thank you. And this is a great time to reach out to them and just say, hey, thank you for all the support over the years. Or maybe a boss that really inspired you over the years, and shoot them a note. And so it reminds us that, hey, it's just not all about us, it's about other people too. And when we start reaching out to others and be more proactive with them, we're going to be able to connect with them and make them feel important too. So that really helps connect with people. So think about right now, we're not going to share this, but think about maybe 2 or 3 people over the next week that you could just reach out to and make a connection. Maybe somebody you haven't talked to. And, I reached out to a bunch of my college buddies I haven't talked to in years, and we're talking about setting up a Zoom meeting. We haven't never done that before, but it's something we want to do. And, time's going by too fast. Reaching out to my coworkers every day, just checking in, how you doing? Right? What can I do to support you? Right? Those kinds of things just to make them important. But even though I'm challenged with a lot of other things, I find time to reach out to other people to see how they're doing. And as we look at the next slide, there's a couple more principles here about giving appreciation, become genuinely interested in other people, and being a great listener. It's probably one of the best skills that we could really sharpen right now, is just being a great listener. Allow people to give their story. Allow people to share how they feel with that. And I really love the quote from Dale Carnegie on the left-hand side. Perhaps you will forget tomorrow the kind words you said today, but the recipient may cherish them over a lifetime. And the most important thing, especially leadership, and we're all leaders here, it's not what we say, it's how we make people feel. And when we make people feel important, when we make people feel genuine for who they are, those feelings stay a long, long, long time. So one of the other things that we can do to manage our stress, to be more resilient, is put time and energy on how we make other people feel. And when we're doing that, we're actually really sharpening our leadership skills as we go through it. So with that. All right, those are the two things we want to focus on, building ourselves, but also building other people. As we look at the next slide, one of the things that can get in the way is stress. All right, so I see a couple faces here. Just give me a little wave into the camera. Are you feeling some things that are stress in your life right now? All right, and stress is real. We can't eliminate it. But what we can do with stress is understand it. And I just learned this when these slides came out, eustress. I never knew there was a word for that. And it's positive stress. And there's distress, which is more negative stress. Now, if we understand stress, and most of us think of stress as positive or negative, and I think we lean towards positive or negative, right? And the negative stress is very impactful, health-wise, relationship-wise, things like that, if we don't control it. The reason I want to share this slide is this: stress is actually neutral. It's not positive. It's not negative. It's neutral. And what is stress is pressure. And when we're under pressure, we give it a definition, and most of us give it the definition of negative stress because of feeling the pressure. You have a timeline. You have a timeline to get your project in. You have you're running late for a meeting. You're hitting traffic, right? We're feeling all those pressure situations, and it just kind of builds up in us, and that's kind of who we are as we go through it. But also that pressure could be positive, and we have a lot of examples that we could all share when we had pressure, and through that pressure, we had positive outcomes. Right? It made us do something better. One of the most popular examples is when we're in school, when we have a test the next day and we waited to that last minute and we felt the pressure and we started cramming in that studying. And when we studied, we got it and we were able to perform. But it's shame on us for waiting for the last minute, but we're able to make that pressure positive and get done and do successful on that test. But it's the same thing. An analogy for positive stress is going to the gym. Obviously we can't do that right now. But an example I like to use is when you go to the gym, you see all this great equipment. Do you just sit there and look at the equipment and you get stronger? Wouldn't that be great? It doesn't work that way, right? So if you're going to go to the gym, you want to get stronger, what do you got to do? You got to get on the equipment. You got to lift the weights. And when you're lifting the weights, you're putting your muscle under pressure. And if you lift it the right way for a period of time, what happens to your muscle? You get the results that you're looking for, right? You're able to take that pressure and build the muscle for those results. And so as we're feeling pressure and as you start feeling stress, just take a step back and say, all right, I'm feeling this pressure. I'm going to have a choice. Am I going to go what's natural and go to negative? Or can I step up and make this pressure more of a positive outcome with us? Right? It's not easy to do, but something that we can do and can control as we go through the process. And so if we look at the next slide, a couple of things that Dale Carnegie reminds us as we're feeling some pressure is we got to make decisions. Because if we're not making decisions, our mind plays a crazy game on us. I remember my dad growing up when I was going on my job interviews, and I have a couple of job interviews, people interested in meeting with me, and I would actually say, nah, I don't want to go on that one. Nah, I don't want to go on that one. He's like, what are you doing? I said, I don't want to do that one. He goes, why? He goes, I'm not interested. He goes, how do you know? And what he told me, and it sticks with me many years later, he said, don't make a decision until a decision has to be made. Go to these meetings, get the facts, right? Get their point of view, learn, then make a decision, because you're making a decision not knowing. And so get the facts, not the people's opinions. Then once you get the facts, analyze them, right? Weigh it out, and then make a decision and then act on it. And when we act on it, it supports the quote. And it's the old saying, a body in rest stays in rest. A body in motion stays in motion. And once we get in motion, our goodness, our greatness comes out. And so, but if we're in rest and have all these negative thoughts and poor me, right, it takes us to a place that we don't want to get to. So have the confidence to get into action. And when we get into action, great things happen as we go through that process. And as we look at the next one's a recap of where we are. So as we go through the process, we have a couple key things here. One is about building us, as we talked about. The other one is about building our teams, reaching out to others, make them feel important, be that ear, that listener. And we do that, we're going to make them feel super important, and you're going to continue to build those relationships. And then when we get back into the business world, for some of us, we're going to be able to strengthen our organization by working on us, enhancing those relationships, and be able to be more productive. And for some of us, we're going to be able to go back into the organization they're in. It's going to be different. I can tell you that right now. And for others, we're going to be finding some new opportunities. But if we work on ourselves and be a people person, you're going to fit in any organization that is lucky to get you as you go through it. Because here's the bottom line. If you look at the next slide here, it pays off, right? When we are resilient, especially now, and we really put the things that we have to do, and this is some studies before all this started, but I imagine we could increase these things. When we're resilient, it pays off. We're more productive, we're more focused, we're able to take on more, we're able to handle on more with that. And then on the other side of that slide, we get to see the ball again. And the question that we need to ask yourself is, what's my bounce going to be? How high do I want to bounce? Right? Over the next couple of weeks, how high do you want to bounce? And our bounce could be as big as we want it, as long as we're able to step up, show that resilience, manage the pressure situations, work on ourselves, but also reach out to others to make them feel important as we go through it. That makes sense? Give me a little nod, a little wave, a little thumbs up as we go through it. Now, the second to last slide here is some action items. And so just take your pen and paper and really think about something that speaks to you as we go through this process here. 3 things that we're focusing on here. One is stay focused on purpose. And this may not just be for you. You might have this already, but other people that we work with don't. This is an awesome time to create purpose. What's my purpose right now, right? We've been through March and April with what the heck's going on here, right? Now we're getting through this in May, and we realize it's not going to go away. It's going to be different. Life's going to be different. We've been through similar things like that. This is time for innovation. This is time for adjustments and things like that. So if you don't have a sense of purpose to who you are, who you want to be, you're going to be missing out with that. I challenge people, setting 2 months goals. Over the next 2 months, where can you grow? What's something that you can learn to do differently? My first 2 months in March and April was to become an online facilitator for Dale Carnegie. I went through that certification. Now I'm on the back end of getting my certification. So I grew. I'm able to take my training that was face-to-face and do it online. Another thing I'm working on now is Dale Carnegie has a program that's called Carnegie Connect. It houses all Dale Carnegie's information. There's a lot of information in there. And so I'm taking the time to each week just to go through certain pieces, studying it. And I'm finding gems that are in there that I just didn't know or really took advantage of. So I'm taking time to learn better systems. Now I have the time to do it and what that offers. So think about some things that are in your life that, hey, I need to invest time and create my purpose and my focus for who I am as we go through it. That's one focus. The other one is balancing who we are. And so this is a great time for all of us to push our comfort zone, develop a certain skill set. If you're not a great public speaker, work on being a better in public speaking. If you're not very good in leadership or management or other skill sets, right? It's a great time to jump on different webinars, do some readings, but push your comfort zone. Do something that's uncomfortable and also increase those relationships. I am a big believer. It's just not what you know. It's also just not who knows. It's just not, who are you? Let me rephrase that. It's just not what you know or who you know. It's who knows you. And if you're not building your brand out there and you're not strengthening those relationships, that's what it is. That's what one of the things I always admired about Giovanni is he loves to give back and help others, and all his different events that he supports the people with, right? That selfish leader that he is really helps um, build his brand, and people value who he is for that. And then the last one is managing stress. We cannot, number 3 there, eliminate stress. It's going to be around us. It's around us even more. A lot of us are working from home. We just did a workshop on being a digital leader and how to manage remotely. And we're feeling a lot of stress in tight spaces in a workspace, and having kids and dogs and the lawnmower out back. And this is a lot of things that are happening. But just take a step back and find that balance, and we're going to be in a great place for that as we go through it. And then the last slide is about me, and we're here to help. So if anything I could do to support you guys, just need to talk, take a picture of this, just reach out. And Giovanni has my number with that as we go through the process. So the last thing I'm going to ask for the group, in the chat box, one more time, think about today's session and what's one thing that was of value to you, and what's one thing that you want to commit to. What's something that stuck out, and just say, hey, I like this piece. I'm going to do more of this. So just take a moment to reflect, and getting in our heads one thing, but putting it out there for others to see so we can support each other makes it even stronger. So let's just go to the chat box there and throw down an action step. Beautiful. Build the skills. Right? Work on listening. Right? Taking the stress. Make it happen. 2-month goal. Be very specific. Right? Follow the SMART formulas. Automation and less stress. Beautiful. Stay positive one day at a time. Hey, life is good. A lot of stuff happens. It's hard to stay positive, but life is good as we go through it. Beautiful. Well, awesome. I love the commitment steps. I appreciate you taking time out of your valuable day to be here, to get some insight. And the bottom line is this. One of our most famous graduates from a Dale Carnegie course is Warren Buffett. Anybody know who Warren Buffett is? Right? Made a lot of money. He actually took the Dale Carnegie course when he was in his early 20s. He had 2 fears, public speaking and confidence. And he really wanted to work on those 2 things. So he signed up for the program. Now, here's a story that I heard. I'm not sure how true it is, but I think it's kind of funny. He signed up for it, and then as we got close to the start date, and back then it was probably like 14 weeks, once a week for 14 weeks, about 40 people in a session. And he wanted to get out. His anxiety got too bad, and he wanted to get out, but they wouldn't give him his money back. And so you know how he likes money. He's like, all right, if I can't get my money back, I need to go do it. And he did it. And he still talks about, as of today, how it changed his life. It gave him the platform on being a great speaker, a great communicator, gave him the confidence to take those risks, to do those things. And out of all his life experiences, he still has his Dale Carnegie certificate in his office where he is. And he values that because it kind of gave him the foundation for who he is with that. And I heard him speak a lot of times about investments, but he talked about a different investment this one time I was hearing him speak, and I'll leave it with you guys, and Giovanni, I'll give you a chance to add some final thoughts here. He said this. He said, the best investment that anybody can make is in themselves. When you continue to invest in you, your future is always brighter. And thank you for making an investment of your time to be here today. looking at some of the fundamentals on being resilient and managing stress. And now it's in our hands, just like Warren did. You have to move forward with it. And when you move forward with it, it's going to pay off. And that's what it's all about. So we're here to help. So thank you for your time and energy. Giovanni, if any final thoughts or insights?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Mike, for your time as well. You had a lot of nice things to say about me, but you're one of the people I learned that from. And I always want to share this. Anytime I talk to anyone who wants to learn about Dale Carnegie, by the way, I'm not being paid for by them or anything. This is just truly what I believe in. I've done their courses. I've known Mike for a few years, and the one thing that has always stuck with me, one of the very first times I heard Mike speak was to get the facts. That one has always stuck with me. And the reason it stuck with me was because, at times I find myself in arguments that many people may not even understand at that point, because, you're dealing with bicultural, ethnicity, things that are different in the work environment, especially the corporate world.
Yep.
Quite honestly, they're not used to seeing people like us speaking up and being eloquent and being educated and understanding the facts. And the first thing I heard from Mike was, know the facts because you cannot argue the facts. And I've always used that principle when I'm out there, just even if I've had to interview for a job or if I've had to make an argument that's not popular, you cannot argue the facts. And at the end of the day, it's where your heart is. And I believe that, that's one of the biggest takebacks from the Dale Carnegie trainings I've been able to achieve. And believe it or not, public speaking was one of my biggest fears. It still is. My hands are real sweaty. My palms are sweaty. I hate being the public eye, even though a lot of people are going to be like, what? The guy who's a DJ and does this and does that? I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But I took that fear and just turned it. I tried to conquer it. I have a lot of improvement to do as far as my public speaking. Obviously, knowing 2 languages, I get lost sometimes with my words, but it's okay.
Just be you.
And for people who may not know me, they'll hear me speak and they'll be like, wow, that was motivational, or that was pretty cool, or man, you own the stage. And it's like, you know how hard it was to do that? So, if you have a chance, read into Dale Carnegie, read a ton of the books. How to Win Friends is a good one. There's a public speaking book. If you need any help, let me know. Just to give you a little recap of everything we did, I did record the entire session, so we're going to make it public and I could share it with you as well. Again, I just want to thank Mike Iorio with the Dale Carnegie training for giving your time and adjusting your schedule, because I know that the Zoom, look, I'm home, I'm furloughed, I don't have a business account, so I'm limited to, I think, 40 minutes, even though I haven't seen the pop-up yet telling me we have to get off.
I saw a pop-up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it might cut us off at any moment. But, thank you for adjusting your training, because I know this is a much longer, in-depth training. And thanks for adjusting it to our 40-minute slot. And for those of you who participated, who were brave enough to do it, because sometimes you got to put yourself in a vulnerable position. Another great concept, in order to gain more. And I feel like I'm always putting myself in a vulnerable position. So thank you all again for participating. Thank you, Mike. If you're on social media, which you might have, this is probably where you saw the invitation, make sure you follow my personal public page. It's called CPA Connections, formerly known as Wednesday Diversity Mixers. It's now CPA Connections. You're going to see all kinds of good stuff come out within the next couple of weeks. I'm going to keep trying to do these type of things where we can provide some good content. And of course, my thing's always been at no cost. So we're going to try and keep pushing that. So thanks again. Have a great evening. Enjoy some time with your families. I hope you guys work on the things you said you would work on. Work on yourself first. That's number one.
Amen.
And, for me, as my wife sits here right across from me at the table, is listening. I have so much trouble just on my listening skills. So yeah, that's a tough one, but I'll keep working on it.
And thank you all again. Have a great evening. Keep an eye out. I'll send you the link to the recording. So thank you again, Mike. I appreciate it. We'll talk soon, buddy.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the evening. Be
Take care.
safe.
Have a good one.